it was a first down, and it was, not a first down. So, obviously we felt like there wasn't enough to overturn it. It got overturned, and we move on. We got to move on to the next series. That's what we did.
I thought I did, but obviously the replay said differently. Wish I would have kept my knee up for a little bit longer. But, I thought that was a nice, aggressive play call. I liked the play call when it came in, and I've got to get that first down.
Dolphins did not score after the first quarter last night. They've been outscored 130-20 in the second half. It's the fewest points scored in the second half by any team this season. Looking on the positive side of things, though, for Miami, home of the Super Bowl. From what you've seen from head coach Brian Flores, has he shown you he is the guy who will eventually turn this organization around? He got uber feisty yesterday.
He did.
It's complicated, right? Because the Dolphins are not just your garden variety bad team. There's something else going on. They've jettisoned so many of their good players, and there seems to be a mission here to get as many draft picks as possible. So it's tough to answer that, especially for someone like Flores, who went from the Patriots to this. It's like a Billy Ray Valentine type switch almost. It's interesting. In times like this, I like to go back and look at what they said when they were announced as head coach. I go back to February in 2019, and it was almost prophetic from Flores. He said, there's going to be some short-term pain, and every time we go out there's going to be pain. He said pain about 26 times in his press conference, and there has been a lot of pain. I think the job requirement for this team is go out there, be determined, be positive, coach your butt off, but in the meantime, you're going to lose. And in the meantime, the Patriots' defense has gotten better since he's been gone. So I think the short answer to the question is yes, because he has not had a meltdown, he has not lashed out, and they're accomplishing the mission of losing every game.
And they fight for him. They play for him. They're doing
play hard, but don't win. Is that what it is?
They don't win, and that's all you can ask for with what they've got on the roster. And I'll say this. Tua might have been a little banged up, but that guy's a player. Joe Burrow's a player down in LSU. You've got all these quarterbacks coming in. If you're a Dolphins fan, it's legitimate to root for your team, but also be watching college football over the next several weeks. One of these guys will be your quarterback next year.
There's definitely a draft watch. But, when it comes to teams like this, I'm always curious to see how they show up. I've been on bad teams, and I've been on good teams. I know when teams struggle and they're at that midpoint in the season where guys know we will not be in the playoffs. There's going to be a lot more turnover on our squad. We're talking 25% of these dudes might not be on this roster next year. How do they show up and play? And yesterday, when I was watching that game, and I had zero connection to the Miami Dolphins, I was proud as hell to be a football player in the NFL because those guys, they weren't quitting. They weren't rolling over. They weren't sitting there on the sideline checking their watch saying, I can't wait for this game to get over because I just want to go home. I hope I don't get injured because I don't want nothing to happen. I'm all about my money. So there was an appreciation for a squad at 0-7, struggling as any other team, any team that I've ever seen, and still playing at a high level. At one point, I thought they were going to win the game and running away with it.
Flores.
Yeah, the Dolphins are, of course, they were active leading up to the trade deadline, which is today at 4 p.m. Eastern. Let's welcome in our guy, Mike Garafolo. He's in New Jersey this morning. 4 p.m. Eastern is the time. Anybody that we should have our eyes on throughout the day?
Yeah, okay, a bunch of people. I'm watching a couple of cornerbacks. Let's start with Darius Slay with the Detroit Lions. I know there was some mention yesterday that the Philadelphia Eagles potentially in play for Slay, but the asking price for Slay, I am told, remains incredibly high. And if Howie Roseman didn't pay big for Jalen Ramsey, and he did make a sizable offer, just not big enough to complete the trade, I just don't see him going to those kinds of levels for Darius Slay. So I'm going to say that Slay remains a Detroit Lion beyond today. One other cornerback that's been mentioned, Janoris Jenkins with the New York Giants. As of yesterday, and I know that there was a tweet from Jenkins that made people think that something had happened. He said something like, life is great. As of yesterday, there was really nothing bubbling with Jenkins. So for something to happen, it's going to happen quickly to get done before 4 p.m. I know people have mentioned he played with for Steve Spagnuolo, now the defensive coordinator in Kansas City, where they need corners. I just haven't heard anything to that end happening. So I think as of right now, I could see Jenkins remaining a Giant and joining Leonard Williams, the new addition to that defense.
Maybe life is just great. It was a beautiful day weather-wise here on the East Coast yesterday. Maybe that's all
Sometimes life is just
about.
great.
Mike Garafolo.
Yeah.
We appreciate you being here with us on the show on this October 29th at trade deadline, again at 4 p.m. Eastern. If there's anything breaking, you'll hit us up with what is going on around the league back here at the breakfast table. How's your cell phone this morning?
It's good, and I think we've seen the two biggest moves when you saw Ramsey and Sanders. I don't think there's going to be a monster one. I'm curious to see what happens with Trent Williams. Darius Slay, like Mike said, I'm saying the same thing. What makes Slay so desirable is that not only is he this great player, he only makes $10 million. Of course, that's relative, only makes. Some of these corners are making 15, 16, so it becomes a affordable asset if you're willing to trade for him. Teams I would look for. The top of the NFC, looking for one more piece. Are the Packers going to get Aaron Rodgers, one more wide receiver? Are the Saints going to get Drew Brees, one more wide receiver? And are the Carolina Panthers going to try to make a move to help their team? I'm very curious to see what we see on the NFC side of things, and if one of those teams is going to make a move. Of course, the Patriots are always listening. They might not be right lineup. They're always listening to see if they can get Tom Brady one more piece.
Would you expect them to, or is that just like a granted thing that everybody thinks the Patriots are going to make?
No, there are a couple tight ends that are not your top tier tight ends that I think would help the Patriots. If there is a smart move, they're not going to mortgage their future for one, but you start hearing names like Tyler Eifert out in Cincinnati and some of those guys that maybe aren't the top tier at tight end, but are guys that could immediately help a team. Potentially that could be a landing spot for those guys.
Trent Williams, where would you guys want him to go? I've heard some things about the Browns being a good fit. Of course, New England would make sense. I don't know if it makes sense cap-wise.
My eyes always go to the front runners. I'm not that interested in the 3 and 6 teams who are trying to get better. I like the names you're mentioning. So if it's Trent Williams or it's somebody else, Peter, I know you don't just talk out of your backside. I know this comes from a place. You said Aaron Rodgers and a wide receiver, as well as he's playing as on fire, you think they may bring sand to the beach?
Historically, they're not a team that does a lot of action.
But things have changed.
Got a new general manager in his second year, and this is just around the league. So it doesn't come from the Packers, but just, hey, they're maybe one more piece away from being able to compete with the Saints or the 49ers. Even like, if there was an affordable, like I look at Robbie Anderson for the Jets. If he's on the trade block,
We heard that, yeah.
If you're the Packers or if you're the 49ers and it's a third or fourth round pick, like, why not? Let's see. The guy can run for days. There are a lot of those type of players that might be available for a lot cheaper than what we thought they would be available for at the start of the season.
And mentioning Robbie Anderson, him being banged up, and the guys like Eifert who had history of being injured, A.J. Green, Keenan Allen. Like, I've always been curious, how willing are teams to reach out to players who have historically been banged up, but we know, if healthy, can be tremendous talent on a good team. Is there a chance for Keenan Allen or A.J. Green? I know we did the trade bot earlier.
Stars.
But A.J. Green, his name just keeps popping up in my head every time around this.
What are you going to get? Because A.J. Green is in the final year of a contract, so you're really getting 8 games out of him and then the playoffs. So are you going to mortgage the future for him? Because he's also coming off that bad foot injury. So it's a curious dilemma. And Cincinnati, historically, Geno Atkins, A.J. Green, like, nope, not tradable. Just stubborn.
Yeah,
you're ours. Like, that's what it is. The Keenan Allen thing is interesting because you see guys like the Chargers, you say, okay, well, there's a team that's sinking. They just fired their offensive coordinator, and yet
they have a Mike Williams behind them who's
that's a cornerstone, though.
Right.
That's their guy. Like, Keenan Allen is one of theirs. They drafted him, and he's been there.
With that said, if he has 1 year left, are they going to break him off and give him $13 million a year? I don't. At this age, with his injury,
but if they give him away, they're saying they're done winning, and Phillip Rivers might not. Like, we don't even know what the future for him holds, so they can't. That's a huge message in an AFC West that isn't.
Chargers are also trying to sell tickets for a new stadium. You start trading off players for assets, and then fans say, well, if you're not invested,
Why should we?
There's a lot of that kind of stuff going on with these teams. I'm fascinated to see the next 7 hours how this all goes because I don't anticipate a giant swing, a huge trade happening, and yet time and time again we've seen Amari Cooper traded, we've seen Golden Tate. It does happen.
I thought Trent Williams wasn't going to be traded. Why are they doing this now? Why now?
To me, if you're the Redskins, you were making a point, making a point. Is this now suddenly, when you've got no leverage? I don't know if he's going anywhere. I also don't know if he's playing anywhere.
You said it, though. Deadlines do things to people.
Yes, they do. They spur action.
We'll talk about some of that action a little bit later on in the show. Thanks so much, Ray, for answering our millions of questions.
Mike, too. We got it.
It was one of the best throws of the weekend. Did you catch the footwork, though? Nate did.
A little toe jack swag coming up. Some of the best we've seen all season.
What did Bill have to say about this quarterback?
Is he positive? I did not see Belichick's comments.
Sunday Night Football. Could he be the guy that beats the Patriots?
Belichick loves unicorns, guys that do things like no one else. I'm sure he loves Lamar Jackson.
I think it's very cute you got a new phone case for trade deadline. It's like getting a new dress for prom.